In Central America, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador are plagued by chronic poverty and violence. Panama has gained the unwanted title as a world capital for money laundering and corruption, and all of them, plus Nicaragua, face constant political upheaval. Yet, amid the chaos, one Central American neighbor remains an island of political stability, economic prosperity, and contentment. This country is known as Costa Rica.
What makes Costa Rica so different from the other countries? They have the same location, same climate, they speak the same language. What makes Costa Rica such a good country?
We went to Costa Rica 2 years ago, and I remember the beaches were really nice.
The people there were really nice and friendly. They were helping us out all the time. And there were lots of stray dogs everywhere.
Costa Rica is different from the other countries of Central America in many ways, but it has one major difference. It does not have an army.
In 1948, Costa Rica's president, Jose Figueres Ferrer, abolished the country's military.
The government claimed to be doing it for peacekeeping reasons, but many Costa Ricans have their own ideas.
Personally, I think that the leader or the president was slightly afraid of getting overthrown by the leader of the army, and then he abolished the army.
But no matter what his motivations were, President Figueres' decision made Costa Rica into the model country that it is today.
The money previously invested into the military was redirected towards healthcare, education, environmental protection, and cultural preservation. There are many benefits of Costa Rica abolishing their army. Firstly, the excess money is used toward healthcare, education, and fighting poverty, which is all invested into helping the economy. Costa Rica leads Latin American and Caribbean in health and primary education, while also having the second lowest infant mortality rate and a 98% literacy rate. This is astonishing compared to Nicaragua, which has a literacy rate of almost 20% lower than Costa Rica. Costa Rica has the lowest poverty rate in Central America, being only 20% of the population.
Tons of benefits have come from this decision, but there's a downside to having no military. Costa Rica faces national security threats just like any other Central American country. These issues include border control, drug trafficking, and the expansion of international criminal organizations into the country, like, for example, the Mexican Sinaloa drug cartel. Costa Rica's location makes it part of the drug route from South to North America, and since it has no military, it's vulnerable to much more. But because of all these security issues, Costa Rica has made efforts to improve the training of their police force. In March 2011, President Chinchilla announced the creation of a special unit of border guards. This first unit will consist of 150 police officers and will be deployed along the country's borders with Panama and Nicaragua.
Not having a military makes Costa Rica very different from other Central American countries, but the way their government approaches certain issues and deals with other countries also makes it unique.
In the 80s, Costa Rica had pretty bad monetary problems, so we got broke. So many countries that we owed money came up with an interesting solution. One of them is US. So US created an interesting system that they call external debt swap for conservation. So since the 80s, Costa Rica has been investing more money into environmental conservation than other countries, given that kind of swap.
This is one of the reasons Costa Rica is doing much better environmentally than other countries.
One Costa Rican goal is to become carbon neutral at one moment in the future. Therefore, the government has been doing its best to have a specific laws that can encourage the companies to be more eco-friendly.
One of these new policies promotes the electrification of the transport industry, which is the country's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. By doing this, they will be on track to hit their goal of zero net emissions by 2050.
It is estimated that Costa Rica has about 1.7 million tourists each year, which is a very high number compared to many neighboring countries.
Tourism has a lot of benefits to this country, which help to reduce poverty levels by adding job opportunities and providing protection to beautiful landforms.
However, tourism also negatively affects Costa Rica by making issues such as prostitution much more prominent through popular tourist cities.
Currently, tourism ranks as Costa Rica's second highest source of revenue.
In other countries in Central America, the job industry is very limited, thus causing for poverty rates to be higher than normal.
When looking at the landscape and climate of neighboring countries to Costa Rica, there are many similarities. However, the reason Costa Rica's job industry is so much more developed than the countries around it is because of how they take advantage of natural landscapes and grow them into tourist destinations by adding man-made features such as steps down to a waterfall or hiking paths throughout the forest. By adding this development, organizations are able to charge entrance fees and hire staff such as lifeguards or guides, which are jobs opportunities that other Central American countries do not have nearly as many of.
By using natural landforms such as waterfalls and volcanoes as tourist attractions, the cost to maintain them is very low, but the revenue they make can be very high.
All these tourist attractions bring many opportunities for people living in Costa Rica to gain employment in the tourism industry, which other countries do not have access to. The La Fortuna waterfall is an example of a protected landform in Costa Rica. The association that maintains this waterfall purchases the land both above and below it in order to protect this natural landform. This making tourism a way for the beautiful parts of Costa Rica to stay protected from deforestation as well as urbanization. The Addy Ford Association takes all the profits from the La Fortuna waterfall to better this community. They take the profit and put it towards orphanage, recycling zones, and community centers, which include playgrounds for children as well as soccer spaces.
Alongside the government limiting the amount of tourists Costa Rica receives, individual organizations also limit the number of tourists they have each day in order to maintain the safety and the enjoyment of the landscape or activity.
For example, the Addy Ford Association limits the number of visitors to the waterfall to 1,000 per day in order to make sure it's safe for everyone and that everyone is able to have the same enjoyable experience.
The coastal parts of Costa Rica are the most highly populated with tourists. We are able to see the negative effects tourism leaves on these areas. The amount of pollution produced in these popular areas destroys the water supply, forcing both locals and tourists to drink bottled water, which produces even more pollution to start. The Costa Rican travel industry works hard to ensure that tourists are respecting and treating the land in a friendly way.
As a country that strives to eventually be carbon neutral, they understand that the visitors coming to their country can definitely have a big impact on their carbon footprint.
Sustainable tourism is a kind of incentive that some companies are getting because they recycle. Okay, so they have to recycle, educate the population about the conservation so as to get that certification. One benefit of this certification is less tax and be part of international events, international touristic events.
Although the eco-friendly way of living is a lot more expensive, these hotels and tourist attractions try very hard to be as environmentally friendly as possible to help reaching their goal and being the most carbon neutral country.
When visiting Costa Rica, we stayed at a hotel that was trying as hard as possible to be carbon neutral. This meant that the hotel organization worked hard to plant trees in order to compensate for the amount of carbon that they were producing. We were given the opportunity to plant trees and see how this hotel works at having a very green habitat with their green garden behind them.
Prostitution in Costa Rica is legal. However, many activities surrounding it are illegal. These activities include promoting or facilitating the prostitution of another, and therefore prostitution rings are also illegal. Prostitution is common and is practiced throughout all of Costa Rica and openly in the country, particularly in popular tourist destinations.
Because of how common prostitution is within Costa Rica, it gives them the big consequence of sex tourism. It was estimated in a study that 10% of tourists who come to Costa Rica engage in sex tourism, with as many as 10,000 sex workers involved, many of whom are immigrants. It was reported that about 80% of the sex tourists that visit are from the USA.
Although tourism seen throughout Costa Rica has benefited them in many ways, it is also very devastating to see how many women sell their bodies in order to make an income off of it.
The Costa Rican government does see this as a growing issue. However, they have not decided to put laws in place in order to stop this problem. The large growth of this industry prompted the government of Costa Rica to introduce a voluntary registration system for prostitutes. Prostitutes who register with the government, carry an ID card, are entitled to a free health check every 15 days, as well as being able to receive support and assistance.
There are an estimated 15,000 prostitutes in the country, and many of them are from Nicaragua, El Salvador, and other Latin American countries because of the lack of tourism that their countries receive.
Costa Rica, a beautiful country with beautiful people, a model for other Latin American countries to follow.